The African Union earlier this month launched a new system of a single electricity trading market for the continent. But what is the new idea about a single electricity market all about? Watch.
The African Union has launched the African Single Electricity Market, AFSEM. Spanning the continent, it is set to become one of the largest in the world, helping provide modern energy to hundreds of millions of people. Despite its rich energy potential and the recent growth of installed generation capacity, Africa lags behind global energy trends. It remains at 3% of global installed capacity, with very low electricity consumption per capita. 640 million Africans still lack access to electricity, most of them from rural areas where less than 27% of the population has access. The AFSEM aims to provide African households, businesses, and industries with more secure, sustainable, reliable, competitive, and affordable electricity. It is aligned with the African Continental Free Trade Area, which aspires to create a single market for goods and services to deepen economic integration. Since 2015, the African Union, with the support of the European Union, has been making efforts to harmonize Africa's regional electricity markets, culminating in the creation of the AFSEM. The policy paper, roadmap, and governance structure for the AFSEM were adopted by the African Union's heads of state and government on 7 February 2021. The AFSEM, which is expected to be fully operational by 2040, will provide a common energy governance system for the continent's interconnected electricity infrastructure, linking the 5 current regional power pools by way of a continental power master plan, a blueprint to enable seamless cross-border trade in electricity.
Joining me for a chat around this latest development is Rumundaka Wonodi. He's the pioneer managing director and CEO of Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company and the CEO and founder at ZKJ Energy. A good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for coming through on the show this evening here in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Boston.
Thank you very much.
Good to be here.
I'm sure you find that video very interesting. Now, give me your first thoughts on this new initiative or a development of an Africa-wide single electricity market floated just about 2 weeks ago by the African Union.
Well, Boston, let me be frank and honest with you. I was a bit caught off guard. So we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that started implementation this January. So you would expect that with time, specific sectors like the energy sector would have some form of policy around it that would allow that movement between and among member states. But the launch so soon after we just started implementation of the ACTA seemed quite, it caught me off guard. It's aspirational, as you can see from the video, but it seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
There needs to be a lot of work needs to be done. We talk about 55 sovereign states. From top of your head, do you think this arrangement, if eventually it works out, do you think it will be a game changer for Africa's poor electricity delivery?
So, Bossy, you listen to that video, and it tells you one thing, that half of the population are connected to a grid. And if you're looking for grid access and thinking about technology these days, I don't think that a single market is the fastest way you can be a game changer for member states. You're deploying these technologies to rural areas that are not connected to the grid. So for any country that is looking to improve its access and is waiting on this, then it's not being honest and serious on its own. The single market with time should be able to optimize the disparities, or what you call the differentials between the generation cost across member states. For instance, in Nigeria, you know that our wholesale power price on the average is about 7.5 cents, while in some other African countries is as high as 17 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents. So with time, there will be scope to tap into such differentials for the benefit of both the seller and the buyer. But at this time, there's a lot of work to be done. And you noted 55 member countries. Coordination, it requires a lot of coordination.
Yes, but what will this new African Union promoted electricity market involve? You're an expert in the industry. What is the workability of it? Walk me through what needs to be done in practical terms that could help us achieve this single market for electricity on the continent.
Well, okay, so there are two parts of that. There's the regulatory, legal, and all the frameworks, governance framework that is required, having the member states regulatory authorities, pulling that together to regional electricity regulatory authorities, and then having one for the continent to that extent. And then, but you also have to make the investments, because at the end of the day, we're talking about cross-border trade. So there has to be the build-out of transmission systems amongst member countries within the regional power pools. Like in Nigeria, we just announced the North Core corridor that is going to put a transmission line going out from Kano to Mali, Niger, and what have you. So you have governance, you have common regulatory and legal framework, and then you have to have system harmonization. So if you come across Africa, you have people operating at different voltages, different frequencies, and different operational parameters. All those needs to be harmonized so that you can actually trade power from one member state to another, from one regional pool to the other. So there is, let me put it again, you have the frameworks policy, and then you have the build out of the real infrastructure, and then you still have to have the operations when those things are built going forward. For 55 nations, it's very aspirational, but there are still scope for, at least between member stations in member states, to gain something out of this.
There is more in this conversation when we return. Stand by, everyone. Stand by, Rumundaka Wonodi. We'll be right back in two. Welcome back to our Rise Exchange. I am Bosi Namafaye. Thank you for standing by. Rumundaka Wonodi, CEO at ZKD KJ Energy and the former Managing Director and CEO at NBET. Let's get a little bit further to this development we're talking about. You're talking about how workable this will be. Now, but what becomes of the various regional power pools like the WAPP in West Africa if the African Union is aspirational of doing a single electricity market for the continent?
Well, as a matter of fact, the existing 5 power pools, East, West, South, Central, and North, are all going to be complementary to this single electricity market. So the build-up is, first you have the member states. The member states will then roll up into the regional power pools, and then the regional power pools will come together to form the single electricity market. So it's consistent with the design that you have these power pools, and what we are not sure is whether they will totally cede their authority to the single market, or to a large extent they will continue to act on behalf of their regions, and then there will just be linkages to the other 5 pools. So I guess all that details will come as the market testing and designs go further along the line. As expected, this is not supposed to come into place until 2040, which is just around the corner. So 19 years, you know what we've gone through in Nigeria. 19 years in market designs and energy market can be pretty short.
Yeah, 10 years can be pretty short between 2020 to 2040. That's about 20 years from now. But then how will this project be funded, by the way? I know the African Union will do that. What role do you see the private sector, the DFIs, and others play in this aspirational AFSEM, Africa's single electricity market?
So, Boston, I think you touched on the real question here. The investment that are required to make should be about between $30 billion to $45 billion across every year across the continent for this to work. And you know that not many African countries could actually undertake this project. So you'll be looking at both the DFIs, as you mentioned, and some private sector money. And the question becomes how stable. So the first thing that you require is a stable political climate across 55 nations to undertake this. We have the Inga Dam. I don't know if you know about the Inga Dam. It's
in Congo DRC, yeah, the Inga Dam 3. Yes.
Yeah, Inga Dam 3, 40,000 megawatts potential.
Yes.
But, and then that could probably power the whole of Central African power pool. But the question is, what is the political stability if you were to depend on the Inga Dam located in Congo for energy security? So it's very important that when we consider all this, the political and the governance of the member states is a single hindrance to this, because if it's not politically stable, as well as we've seen, it is impossible to raise finance for these projects.
That was I was trying to find out how quickly. But do you think the various governments, the various sovereigns, can see these from a political, economic, and business point of view and get it fast-tracked, since we have the EFCFTA already off the shores, in the manner of speaking, because we need electricity if we're really going to get the EFCFTA up and running, ramping up very quickly?
Well, yeah, this is exactly what I was saying, that for every member state, it must have a conviction on their own on how to solve their energy challenges. And once you solve that, then you begin to optimize through the market, right? So you cannot sit within your country and not have a basic plan for your member state and then expect that this will be the solution to the problem. And again, it requires political will across the continent, everyone. And Boston, we have the African Union passport that was launched in 2016.
I don't have that yet.
Exactly. So that's the point, right? That is the point. That has a lower hurdle than setting up a single electricity market, right? So if you don't have the political will for certain continental initiatives, then an electricity market, single electricity market, is rather a complex undertaking. It requires that political will first, and every other thing, a lot of money, a lot of intellect to make it work.
Interesting. Well, we're very grateful for your time on the show tonight. Enjoy your weekend and see you next time. Rumundaka Wonodi, CEO at ZKJ Energy and the Pioneer Managing Director and CEO of NBET. It's aspirational, but let's just kick it off. Let's see how it goes.